The play is set in 1890s Germany, but it's, you know, the score is a modern rock score by Duncan Sheik. I play Ilse. She's the bohemian girl who runs away from home after being abused by her father. And she's kind of like an old soul in a girl's body. She's grew up way before her time and has gone through way too much for her age.
And I play Moritz, and basically the show is about this group of teenagers and the discovering of their own sexuality, and Moritz is the character who probably struggles with the most. He's tormented by his own puberty, and no one will explain to him what's going on. Actually, the Columbine was something that expedited the process of Spring Awakening, which I know is close to home for you guys. When that happened, Steven Sater and Duncan Sheik and Tom Holson, everyone involved in the project, realized like there was a need for a show like this, like for teenagers.
Taylor, why do you think it is so hard in the end for Moritz to just take her hand and just walk home with her?
Well, Moritz's whole life, he fails at everything. Like he doesn't please his parents. He doesn't do well in school. He's never been able to like commit to something and succeed. So for once, he has this idea that he wants to kill himself, and he's like, if I can't even do that, like, what does that say about me? Like, I will have never like gone through with anything. I will have never succeeded with anything. So as sad as it is, he like wants to finally commit to doing something right, and it's morbid, but for once, he's set out to do something, and he's going to finish it.
Would be your answer to somebody who says that Moritz's storyline in some way glorifies suicide?
You know, that's an interesting question. I think it's just told honestly, and the music is, if anything, just makes it so much more accessible to audiences, because our show brings in generally like a non-theater going audience, or less frequently theater going audience. So that if anything, the music invites, I think, audience members into the story more than like classical musical theater would.
Taylor, what do you think about the conceit and what it accomplishes by having a 120-year-old story being played out in music that you would like to hear on the radio today?
It shows that, I think, that even though this play is over 100 years old, it's still completely relevant and just as important now as it was then. I think that while our society has like changed a lot in the last 100 years, there's still a lot we have to go. There's still people who are discriminated against all the time. So I think it kind of just points out to the audience, you know, like there's still changes to be made to our world, and you guys can like be the change.
I'm curious about geographically, about whether or not the energy that you feel from the audience changes from different parts of the country.
Yeah, entirely. We were just in California, and audiences there were like loud and crazy and felt like they were at a rock concert. So sometimes, like after a song ended, the person sitting next to me on stage would be like, "Ah!" like in my face, and I was like, "Oh!"
As a lot of you know, Melchior in this production is played by Jake Epstein, who was Craig Manning on Degrassi. I even know that. But I know some funny stuff happens to you when people find their way onto the stage, and I'm just wondering if you have any anecdotes about people who take who don't really respect the boundaries. Perhaps.
We have plenty of stories.
On Jake Epstein's opening night as Melchior, the person he was sitting next to happened to be a huge fan of Degrassi, and seconds before he made his very first entrance into the show, the girl next to him just turned and went, "You're gonna be great." And he was like, "Okay," and then just got up to the show.
A lot of people try to touch you when you're sitting on stage.
Well, you do ask them to in song.
It's true, we do.
There's fog effects, and Steffi's noticed people like smelling the fog.
Oh yeah, dude, when the fog comes out,
like,
people are liking it.
They're breathing in the entire
Oh yeah,
experience.
and you know, after you sing That's a Popular One, and you go to sit down in your seat, they're just like, oh my god, you're so amazing.
Steffi D, and she does these adorable profiles of the month of certain cast members. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about the one that's up there right now on Jake Epstein, because he told you about, this is the kid from Degrassi, he told you about who his grandparents were, Holocaust survivors.
Yes, that's right.
And they had an interesting take on the timing of the show being in 1891, and they said, take a look at what age these kids are at this time in Germany. And you have to sort of consider that if they go the path of their nation, they could be the leaders of the SS who had very much to do with the deaths of millions and millions of people.
Yeah, that's right. Jake's mother is also an author who wrote a book about that. Taylor?
About that, and there's one character who's even, his hair is like bleach blonde and he has blue eyes, and it's almost sort of, that's a little bit of foreshadowing to say that, you know, he could go on to be like a commanding officer of the army later in life.
What have you heard about some of the people out here who've been moved by your show?
But it's cool to see how much people are affected by it when it is 100 years ago, because they realize, A, they're not alone, and B, it's like not a new thing to be confused as a teenager, like it's been going on since the beginning of time.
And for me, what's really sad, me and Ilse and Marta sing this song called The Dark I Know Well, and there's been a lot of people who have come up to me, and Sarah Hunt, who plays Marta, to say that how much the song touched them because they were victims of abuse when they were younger. That's always so heartbreaking, but it's always, how it keeps it fresh too is that every time, you know, I step up to the mic to tell this story in The Dark I Know Well, you always know that maybe there's one person in that audience that's gone through that, so you're doing it for them.
So I talked to Stephen about it, and he said he wonders how it is that teens today, with the internet and access to all the information that they could ever want on any topic, are as quote-unquote startlingly and painfully emotionally clueless about sex as the teens in Wiedekind's play. He said, quote, kids are just as shackled by the silence around them and the confusion. They haven't gotten very far, he said, and that's because of parental stoicism. Do you think that's true? And if so, why is that still true?
To a degree, I think even though you can find internet super quickly or even information on the internet super quickly, it's not always reliable. On Wikipedia, you can write whatever you want. So, I mean, as amazing as the internet is, it's also maybe not the best source for a lot of information.
That's why I think it's, this show's so great to see with your parents, believe it or not, to kind of open up some dialogue. It's gonna, you know, there's gonna be an interesting ride back home and a conversation in the car, but I think it's important to kind of get it from a real source.
We have some questions that you have provided for us as well. Are you all fans of the show Glee? I don't know why. Is there
I'm a huge fan. I haven't seen this week's episode, although it's so good again. But
I hear someone breaks out in song.
Yes, they do. I was so heartbroken. The best scene I think in the entire season so far is when Quinn tells her parents that she's pregnant, and I thought that scene was so heartbreaking.
I think too, with the casting director for Glee, it's the same casting director for Spring Awakening, so a lot of us went in for Glee too.
Yes,
so
I
we
did.
have like a personal connection to the story. So I watch it just because I was like, who's this guy that's in a wheelchair? Like, I wanted to be that guy. So yeah, we all watch it now to see like who got the part over us and how amazing that cast is, like how well that worked out.
I went and I saw your show last Wednesday, and I noticed that the stage that you perform on looked like a broken stone. What do you feel is the symbolism of the stage that you perform on?
It's actually a tree. Yeah, we have two platforms. In the first act, we have a bigger platform, which is probably what you saw, and there's like a tree. I think, you know, it's kind of just symbolizes growth and kind of, you know, spring, the seasons of life, sort of, just, you know, a tree. And then in the second act, for those who've seen the show, you know, the platform comes up where Melchior and Wendla, you know, make love. And then in the second act, the entire rest of the platform disappears. And it's kind of like to show that the world is becoming smaller and smaller around them.
This is the question I've been asked for the last 2 weeks incessantly by pissed off people. So for people who say that this is a show about sex and masturbation and suicide and abortion and sexual abuse, I'm certainly not going to go see that. I'm not going to let my kids see that. What do you say to that person to try to get them to open up their hearts to what the message of the show is?
You're missing out.
Like, yes, all those things are in it, and it's kind of exciting and shocking to watch, but that's not like the point of the story we're telling. We just have to use those things to kind of like put it out there, like kind of put it in your face and make you realize it's important what we're saying.
And it's just real. It's just, you know, like 15-year-old boys masturbate. It's just like a fact of life, and it's just, I know it's shocking to see on stage, but...
There's none of that in Oklahoma, though.
No, unfortunately.
There's just a girl who can't say no. Hey, wait a minute. Actually, maybe it's not that revolutionary. As we finish, do you have any thoughts about Denver, your experience here? I know that it was so cold you didn't really get a chance to experience it so much, but what's it been like being in Denver?
I think Denver's thebomb.com.
Did you say that about Orange County too? Did you say that about Orange County?
I didn't say that about Orange County.
Yes.
I thought Orange County was boring. Here in Denver, we can like walk places, which sometimes we're in a car in Denver.
No,
we can
it's
just
been really
walk
fun.
the street and freeze, but walk.
Yes, freeze but walk. Well, what have we been doing here? I feel like I've been doing stuff, but I forget. No, it's been like a really good time. I've been liking it a lot. Actually, yesterday, the girls of Spring Awakening went to a bathhouse. We went to a bathhouse, the spa, all together. And
that means different things in different cities.
A spa.
It does. But we've been doing lots of... What? Okay. No, it's been fun to walk around and shop here, and we have Secret Santa coming up in our cast. It's gonna be fun.
Help me in thanking these two one more time, guys.
Last question. Was that the hardest thing you've ever been put through in your life?
I wouldn't say my life, but
It's up there.
It's up
It's
there.
up there.
It was fun. It wasn't.
Did I say that? I'm not a representative of any Colorado high school. Please do not call the Denver Post.